Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, here we go. Second hour kicks off right now on this Thursday morning of August 6th. Thanks for hanging out with us and making us a part of your start here. First hour, we spent the whole hour talking Brewers after the Brew Crew picking up the win yesterday. Kyle Harrison looked awesome last night. Brewers giving Paul Skeens his 10th loss on the season. Brewers will try to go for the series win later this afternoon with Dustin May making his debut for the Brewers. So we'll get back to plenty more Brewers talk. We got Hunter Baumgart joining us just past 9 o'clock, Brewers reporter. So we'll get his thoughts on post-trade deadline and the performance from Kyle Harrison last night. Got that on the way. We got Jake Boakes, DNR warden, joining us at 8:30. So if you have any hunting, fishing, outdoor-related questions, please text those on over to that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Let's kick off this hour chatting some football. So yesterday we got to hear from the coordinators for the first time this since training camp has began. And, well, I want to play a little bit from both Cam Achord and Jonathan Gannon, the two newer coordinators. And we'll start off with special teams coordinator Cam Achord, who if I'm sure many of you have seen the video, but actually got down and demonstrated holding the football for Trey Smack, how he likes it, used a pen in that. So, I mean, it was a good question by our friend Rob Domofsky too. So it was awesome to see that. But anyways, let's play a little bit here from the presser yesterday from Cam Achord, new special teams coordinator for the Pack.
Sorry, can y'all at least say your name, please? So, because I don't know anybody in here, and I at least like to put names with faces and get to know you guys a little bit, and you ladies and everything. So just first name, last name, whatever you would like me to. When I see you or something, address you as. So
yeah,
that would help.
Right over the Packers for SI. So what do you think of Trey starting? How do you get the bumps and the ups and downs kind of smoothed out to what's more ups and downs?
Yeah, I think anytime you have any young guy, whatever position it is, there's going to be some ups and some downs. I think it's the consistency when you come in and you look at the film, you talk to the guys, what are you working on technique-wise, what can you improve on? Is there some things that you're like, man, that was you just missed that when you hit the ball clean in his specific situation, or was it like, hey, that was a good hit, that was a bad hit? There's a difference when you look at the kickers. There's a good miss and there's a bad miss, and it all depends on the contact they make when you really slow it down. Sometimes you can't see that when you're watching it live. You'll see at practice. I move around different spots during the field goal periods, just looking at different things, because there's different aspects when you're viewing it, whether you're in front of the kicker, behind the kicker, to the side of the kicker. You're able to see different things. That's why we have all the camera views, because you're looking at multiple things, right? So you just got to have him be a consistent person every day he's here and just continue to improve on it, because there's something to probably tweak or look at every day. And you just want to see him get better. And it's not so much the makes and misses right now. It's more so about the ball contact is what I'm looking at.
Hey, Cam, Brian Wood with the Green Bay Press-Gazette. I don't think anyone's probably surprised that there's been some bumps for a rookie that's never really kicked in this win before. He's got to work through that, right? When should that even out? How long is the learning curve on that?
Well, I think that's unique for Green Bay and the practice fields, to be honest with you, and the stadium. I don't know if, even in my time in New England, we've dealt with a lot of wind at practice, and even in MetLife. First off, you're dealing with the wind dynamics, and it's been really great for me and him and all the specialists, is when we go to practice, the wind is there. But when we go into Lambeau and do walkthroughs and stuff, honestly, I look at the wind there and I look at it at night, and then we go in there and it's like, wow, you don't feel anything. So I don't put as much stock on the practice stuff as I will in the stadium stuff. Even kicking in there and those elements, because it's totally different. A headwind 12 miles an hour outside with gusts of 25 really feels like a light breeze almost inside. Whereas at practice, you're out there and you're looking at the flags and it's moving and you're like, whoo, it's a tough day to kick. So it's good to have those. So I think a lot of times at practice, the results may not be what we want them to be or not as good as they could be or whatever it may be, but putting guys in tough situations, kicking into it, and then going inside and seeing it's not as windy as it's going to be. So I think at practice, I think it's really good that we do have the wind we have. Whether it's the northeast, southeast, and it's going different directions. And then we have the indoor, right? So it's coming off, and it's actually different, and that's what goes to learning the ball, learning how the what wind's playing every day. So I would say, I'm going to put more stock into game days and stuff like that. And then when we kick in stadiums, I think that's where it's going to be. And then the growth of it is he contacting the ball better? It's not so much is he hitting the ball and we're 9 for 9, whatever, or we were 3 for 4. I've been around kickers that went 9 for 9 and had a terrible day. When you look at the film that day, you're like, I really didn't hit the ball good. They went 3 for 4 or whatever, or 3 for 5. And it's like, well, at least you struck the ball well, and we knew we were missing. So it's a lot of when you watch the film where it was. But obviously in the stadiums working together, you hope, obviously you're making more kicks there. But I think there's more value in that than what we're doing on the practice field.
Hey, Cam, Rob Domofsky from ESPN. Matt LaFleur said yesterday that Trey likes the ball held a little differently than Brandon did maybe, and Daniel's obviously got to adjust to that. How does he like it held?
So, here we go.
Oh, this is going to be awesome.
So each kicker is different, right? Everybody see? Right? This is my football. All right, but each kicker is different, and it all depends on how to strike the ball. But playing and win and elements and stuff like that, and again, a lot of guys like the ball straight up and down. Everybody with me on this? Okay? All right? However, when you're playing in wind, and it also depends on whether the wind's in your face, right to left, left to right, right? So if you want to drive the ball through the wind and not move it, you have to lean it forward a little bit, okay? So most guys that kick in weather have a forward wind lean. Now, after that, it depends on whether it's left or right, whether I'm going to slightly lean it into me or it's just a forward lean with no lean into the holder. So when Daniel's out there and we're talking and we're doing the wind, it's like, hey, we're just going ball down, a little forward here. Or the next day, maybe, hey, ball's down, but also slightly into you a little bit. So each kicker's different, but what you work on more when you play in element stuff is a little bit more forward lean, and then it may be straight and it may be into it, okay? What that allows, and some kickers actually have into them small, into them big, okay? 2 different into the leans. That's where Daniel working with him, it's here and it's into him small, medium, whatever it may be. Because what happens with the kicker is it allows them by adjusting football to not actually change their swing. You're moving the football and the lean, so when the guy goes to actually kick the ball and make contact, he's making the same contact and he's letting the lean of the football do the work for him. So that's a lot of the stuff we're working with in practice, and that's what's really good about our practice field is because the wind is going to be so different every day. Does that make sense? So now it's a lean into, out to, and now we're working together, and the more reps we can get out there in that wing, it's going to really help us. Is that?
I couldn't have screwed it better, actually.
Okay, all right.
That's Cam Achord, Packers special teams coordinator, and dude would make a great teacher. I mean, coaches are teachers, but I mean the amount of detail he went into, the demonstrations that he was kind of explaining of holding the football. We just hope that it translates on the field, right? I mean, it kind of feels like maybe this is the perfect coach for a rookie kicker here. But it goes, he made something. He was talking about the wind on the practice field and not putting a lot of stock in, the makes or misses right now in the practice field, and mostly about is he making good contact on the football. And I wonder if that relates a lot to what Rob Domofsky, who had asked that last question, was when he was on the show with us yesterday. And he said, there was a point in practice early on when Smack missed a field goal. Matt LaFleur ran down and told the officials not to signal good or no good. I don't know if that correlates to where they aren't focused on that right now and just maybe focused on making contact with the football, and that's what they want Trey Smack to focus on. I don't know. It's different. It's kind of weird. I think at some point, you just got to be like, okay, is it good or not? And put the officials out there. I mean, kickers, you got to be mentally tough in this thing, regardless. You got to be mentally tough. So I don't know how much you can shield them and cater to them and say, okay, we're not going to tell you if you made it or miss it. Just okay, initially, maybe the first week, focus on how you're kicking the ball, the placement, the angles, figuring that out because it is different. Daniel Whalen is getting adjusted to it too, so the whole operation's different. But at some point, you got to be a big boy and got to be like, oh yeah, you're missing, you're making, whatever it may be. I don't know. I'm kind of spitballing here with that. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to hear from Packers defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. We've been hearing some good stuff out of training camp so far in the first week about this defense, this blitzing defense. Is it possible that Jonathan Gannon might actually have two different styles of defense he might be playing this year? We'll hear from him, and we'll talk about that coming up after these quick words. When you're looking for your next vehicle, choose a dealership that knows and cares about the community it serves. Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls is proud to be locally owned and operated, providing hometown service and a better buying experience for drivers throughout the Chippewa Valley. Whether you're looking for a new Ford or a quality pre-owned vehicle or trusted service for the vehicle that you already own, the team at Toyson Ford is there to help out. Experience the difference of shopping local. Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls, your hometown Ford dealer. All right, so we heard from Cam Achord just now. Let's hear a little bit from new Packers defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. And we've been hearing a lot about three safety defense. We heard about it when he was first hired. We've been hearing a little bit more about it from Jordan Love and kind of Gannon himself. And I'm just going to throw this out there and explain it after we hear from a little bit, not the whole talk from Gannon, but just a little bit from Jonathan Gannon. But could he potentially be maybe working on two different styles of defense? But let's listen in on Jonathan Gannon yesterday when he was chatting with the local media.
First time, my name's Rob Domofsky.
Hey, Rob, how you doing? Yep.
You have this kind of calm demeanor about you that we see. You're walking on the field, but a bunch of your players have just said how energetic. A couple of them use the word crazy.
Ooh.
Where does that come from, and is it natural, or are you trying to do that to make a point?
No. I think I'm energetic by nature because I love what I do, so it's hard not to be energetic and enthused about something. And I'm grateful for this job, so I'm going to show good energy. But the crazy thing, probably, I don't know who said that. They're probably alluding to, I do believe that words paint pictures. So there's certain things in the install or certain things when we're going over a tape review. I'll probably use an example that's non-football related that hopefully it hits their brain and they can understand it a little bit better, or it kind of cements it in. This has to get done. And I sometimes will use some examples that are probably a little bit out there, so maybe that's what they're talking about.
Hey, Jonathan. Tom Silverstein
Tom.
with the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. So 5 games into the season, you're going to get one of the best defensive players in the league back in your lineup, and you don't practice with him until a week or two before that. So how do you prepare to use Micah Parsons now when you don't really have him? And I assume your defense will change to some degree when he
Tom,
comes in.
first of all, let's go back to the first part of your question. You know something I don't know, huh? I don't know when that's going to be. Every timetable is different. But yeah, I think I think our job as coaches, and in my role specifically as the defensive coordinator, is try to put our 11 in the best positions that we can to affect the game in a positive way. And when you do that, that's also, there's an element of your opponent that you're playing as well, right? So I think, what we're doing right now is kind of going through our installs, seeing what our guys are comfortable, seeing their skill sets, seeing what they can do, and then obviously we have a pretty good understanding of the player that Micah is and see where he fits into all that. And a player like that, it's not, very complicated in my opinion to use him or deploy him in a way to affect the game in a positive way. So he's been awesome. He's very smart. He understands a lot of things that we're doing already, how they complement other things that we're trying to do. And he could see himself, we were talking the other day, he could see himself in a bunch of different spots in different calls. So that's kind of cool, and it'll just be our job to make sure that he gets his touches, which he will.
Jonathan, Matt Schneidman with The Athletic. Zaire was telling us how in his early days in Indy, you gave him I think his phrase was battery in his back when he needed it because he didn't feel like he was noticed, but you singled him out in a good way. What did you see in him then to do that, and what do you see now in kind of the leader middle linebacker?
Yeah, I haven't been with him since 2020, I guess, so that seems like a long time ago. But I just knew how much he cared, how good of a teammate he was. And, as a young player in this league, everyone has their own journey. The coaching staff that you're with, the system that you're with, the team that you're on, obviously. And I just felt like he was a guy that was going to be a really good football player, and he might have been at that point struggling with something, and we had two linebackers in front of him or whatever the case may be. But I think it's our job to make sure that our guys, when they're under our watch, and I wasn't coaching him, but inject belief and confidence in those guys to keep improving on a daily basis to hit their ceiling, whatever that ceiling is. And I don't think anyone ever is a finished product. So there's going to be ups and downs, but you want to try to keep getting better every day. But he definitely he's wired the right way, which is one of the reasons we brought him here. Very pleased with what he's doing.
Jonathan Ryan Wood with Green Bay Press Gazette. When Carrington went down, you had a couple options for who would get his reps with the first team. Why was it Brandon, and what have you seen from him just holding up over these first few padded practices with your starting defense?
Yeah, he's doing a good job. I think all our rookies are doing a pretty good job of understanding conceptually what we're trying to get done. This is going to sound easy to you guys, but it is hard. You have to practice the right way in the NFL, and sometimes that's hard for rookies. We have, I call them rules of engagement. There's certain things. Yes, we're playing football in pads, but we are playing against our team, and you have to protect your teammates first. And there's a governor that at times you need to have happen, right? I think all our rookies are getting used to that and doing a good job with that. As it relates to Cisse, we want to see him out there and see what he can do. Obviously we took him where we took him. He's got the skill set that we're looking for. And he's a good guy he's doing a good job of when he makes mistakes are going to happen, especially for a lot of young guys in a new scheme, right? This is a new scheme for him, as it is all our guys. Mistakes are okay, just don't make it the same time, the same mistake again. And I think all our rookies are doing a good job of that.
Along the rookie lineup, Bill Huber from the Bears on this side. Sticking with the rookie theme, I'm sure you played a bunch of them in your career. What's a challenge when you have, it looks like Brandon and Chris and Denai all could have pretty big roles right off the bat. What is a challenge for you as a coordinator to be, I'll say leaning on, but those guys are going to be out there quite a bit?
No challenge. I think it's, for rookies, I always say I feel like rookies it's their hardest year in the NFL because if you go back from a year from now, if you look at the scope of what they've done through their college season, all-star games, bowl games, all-star games, combine, pro day, draft, OTAs, little bit of time off, which is really no time off, training camp, it's a lot. They really haven't had a break. So when people talk about the rookie wall, I think that's what they're talking. Oh, and then, by the way, go play 17 games. Really 3 preseason games and then 17 games. So it's a long time for those guys to be locked in. I think, their brain has to work extremely well. That's one of the challenges for rookies, not just schematically in football, just from a standpoint of their recovery and their health, truthfully. So, like I said, I think our guys are doing a good job, and if they deserve to be out there and play, they're going to play.
Hey, Jonathan, Paul Brettel, Wisconsin State Journal. Since arriving here, seeing Barron Sorrell, getting to know him, what have you kind of learned about his game on the practice field and kind of where he can fit within what you want?
Yeah, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's a great teammate. He's tough as nails, and he can make a bunch of plays, and I think, it's been cool to see his versatility. We're trying a bunch of guys out at a bunch of different spots, and he can do a lot of things, which is good.
Hey, Jonathan. I'm Dominique Yates, also with the Journal-Sentinel. For a guy like Lucas Van Ness, what have been your impressions of him throughout camp and this offseason? And I guess what challenges have you brought forth to him heading into this year?
Yeah, it's just like all of our players, consistency is key, Matt and I talked about this. I talked to the defense. I told you guys I'm not a huge quote guy, but I'll give one or two over a course of a month. And the first one I said, and I do believe this in training camp, it's like intensity makes for a good story, consistency makes for good results. And what you're saying is well, anybody can go work out for 3 hours one day and then they don't work out for a week and they're not in shape, right? Where if the guy that works out 30 minutes a day for 7 days in a row, he's probably going to be in better shape, right? Our guys, okay, we have a standard that we want to play. One day to do it's great. Can you do it day 3, 4, so on and so forth? So that was my challenge to Lucas, and he's done a good job of responding to that, and he's been working on some things with DeMarcus, and he's in a good spot.
All right, so that's just a little bit from Jonathan Gannon, new Packers defensive coordinator yesterday. And, talk about Micah Parsons. Obviously, he's going to be missing some time early on, and whether it's first 5 games, 4 games, whatever. We know he's going to be missing a few games. And so the big question is, okay, how does Green Bay generate some pressure? How do they play defense without Micah Parsons? And we keep hearing a lot about Jonathan Gannon's 3 safeties. He's used it with Arizona and like Budda Baker and that. And Jordan Rodriguez has a really good piece on The Athletic. And she was in Green Bay. And this is from yesterday. And she has a piece where she says, I think Jonathan Gannon is designing 2 defenses with overlap, pre-Parsons and one with Parsons. 3 safety looks, blitzes, and creative movement will be key early on. Javon Bullard, others as move players, echoes Gannon's previous work, but pressure design is new. And this is just a little bit from her piece. She said Gannon, Arizona defensive coordinator Nick Rallis, also did some funky schematic things with versatile defensive back Budda Baker, especially in 2024 when Baker played safety, nickel, linebacker, outside linebacker, and even 8 snaps of outside corner. Gannon is not adverse to putting a larger slot defender in that hybrid big nickel / Buffalo nickel / star role repopularized over the last few years by Vic Fangio, Mike McDonald, and others to counter today's big slot tight end dominant defenses or offenses. Nor is he adverse to moving players around. The cloudier for the quarterback, the better. If sacks aren't easy to come by, making the quarterback hesitate because of the pressure or simulated pressure and then throw into murky, aggressive coverage may force errors. Because the Packers' safety group is such a strength, Gannon won't be shy about putting a safety in that inside role. Bullard, the 2024 second-round pick, is a strong candidate and therefore utilizing more 3 safety looks. Bullard's feel for space and ability to, quote, flip his brain, a term that Matt LaFleur likes to use, from roll to roll across the box and defensive backfield in coordination with the movement of fellow safeties Xavier McKinney and Williams was exciting to watch. Their flow around each other almost felt orbital, and it was confident. It's been amazing, said Bullard. Just the new positions, the different schemes, guys in the back end just moving around in different places. I think this is going to be a fun year. The different disguises that we've got going on, we definitely have the pieces to do it. Which I think brings the question, when we look at the first few weeks of the season with no Micah, if we ask the question, who's going to be the most important defensive player? Could it be Javon Bullard? If it is, in fact, heavily reliant on those three safeties, you could probably say either one of those safeties, whether it's Xavier playing the kind of center field role. We know Evan Williams is playing a little bit more in the box. But if Javon Bullard is kind of that, maybe the Buda Baker of this defense, could one make the case that Javon Bullard might be one of the more important players on this defense, pre and post Micah Parsons' return? Is it a little bit more risky when you're going to have corner blitzes? Of course, 100%. But also maybe makes a little bit more sense, too, with, and I'm not saying it was a bad signing or questionable signing at the beginning, but Benjamin St-Juste, who has primarily been a nickel corner, slot corner. All right, if you're going to be using or utilizing Javon Bullard across the field a little bit more, you insert Benjamin St-Juste as that more typical nickel corner then. And then you open up Bullard as possibly being that kind of a Swiss Army type of player on the defensive side. And remember, Benjamin St-Juste, he's a bigger corner too. He's 6'3". I know we're only a week and a day into camp, but I'm a little bit more intrigued with what we could see from this defense with a lot of these disguises. And, I know when Jonathan Gannon was first hired, Matt LaFleur kind of said, preparing for Arizona and that style of defense the last couple of years was one of the more challenging things from an offensive standpoint. And Jordan Love echoed that a couple days ago too, when he was doing his interview with Kay Adams, just with all the different disguises and trying to dissect where pressure is going to come from, what kind of coverage they were going to have. And when you look at the Packers' schedule coming up here, when you open up the season, the unique thing is your first game is against Kyler Murray. Where's Kyler Murray, who was his head coach the last couple of years? Jonathan Gannon, if in fact Kyler Murray is a starter, which he probably is. So Kyler Murray practiced against that a couple of years. He might be a little familiar with it. But then you throw in Geno Smith with the Jets. Maybe a Tua, maybe a Michael Penix Jr. with the Falcons, Baker Mayfield with Tampa Bay, and then Caleb Williams with Chicago. Trying to confuse those quarterbacks, trying to disguise some coverages or disguise where the blitz is going to come. Those are quarterbacks who have been prone to turn the ball over. You can very well see that being the game plan. And then when Micah Parsons comes back, you probably still have elements of that, but then you add one of the best, most premier pass rushers in the league to that. Yeah, it's hard not to get excited. But like with everything, you got to prove it on the field first. It's got to happen on the field first. But maybe Javon Bullard might be a little bit more of a key defensive player this year than what we initially thought. We got to take a quick break. Plenty more to get to coming up after these quick words. When it comes to feeding your family, quality matters. And for great tasting meats, you don't have to look any further than Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. From fresh cuts of beef and pork to delicious brats, steaks, and all of your favorites for the grill, Mike's Star Market brings you the quality and service that you expect from a true local butcher shop. Whether you're firing up the grill or planning a family meal or stocking up the freezer, stop by Mike's Star Market and experience the difference of shopping local. Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Quality meats, hometown service, and a tradition that you can taste. Zach, Zach says, C-Bomb is jacked up for the Classic. Wish I didn't have to work. C-Bomb says, you can do whatever you want on your last day, Zach. C-Bomb saying, El Capitano, let's fast forward to the Classic tomorrow. Can't wait. Been practicing for a week. 4. My vocal cords are ready. Also, I don't know if Surveyor's tuning in, but C-Bomb did say it a little bit earlier. 3 up the Classic. Cam Achord, the Brewers. 3 down, Surveyor Sam, his partner Nate, and the rest of the field of the Classic. So, Surveyor's been a little quiet this week. I think I've only gotten like 1 text from him, so maybe he's in the darkness getting prepared for the tournaments starting tomorrow. He'd be on the course in a little less than 24 hours from now, but... we got a few messages here talking about Jonathan Gannon. Ben says, interesting to hear about the 3 safety concept and how vital Javon Bullard might be for the Packers. I'm not sure how it will work out, but I'm willing to see how it plays out. Another texter says, I think it's a good plan for the Packers to try to be creative to bring different pressure from different areas until Micah Parsons comes back. Even when Parsons comes back, I hope the Packers are still creative and bring pressure from different areas of the field. And then we've got Kevin that texted in and said, Cam Achord sounds like a college professor. Love the way that he broke everything down and that he's teaching a rookie kicker. Seems to be a good match between the two. Hopefully that results into a long-term partnership between Cam and Trace Mack with the Packers. You can continue to send us your thoughts on the green and gold if you would like. Again, they didn't have practice yesterday, so back at it today. Should know a little bit earlier, Jonathan Taylor signed an extension with the Colts. So we've gotten a couple running backs now with big extensions. Bijan Robinson signed that 3-year extension. Jonathan Taylor, now a 2-year extension worth $44 million, which means Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be next. And I think one of the more interesting issues, stories, whatever, however you want to describe it, over the last, 15, 20 years has been running backs and how teams value running backs. It's gone in waves. At some point, at one point it was like, you don't pay a running back or you don't draft a running back in the first round. And then, you started to pay running backs, and then you've got like maybe the Ezekiel Elliott stuff where it's a 6-year deal and it's a lot of money. But now you got maybe, all right, we'll pay running backs, but they're going to be shorter-term deals, not long-term deals. But the running back position has I think it's one of the more unique positions in all of sports in terms of, from a business side of things. And also maybe from a scouting side of things. Because a lot of the running, Taylor was a second-round pick, and I know Bijan was a first and Gibbs was a first, but there's been other running backs taken second, third, fourth, even fifth round that have gone on to be pretty solid careers. But it's a mindset, I think, that maybe different scouts, different GMs, or different fans have. Do you take a running back in the first round? Do you draft a running back in the first round? Or do you wait till day 2 to find that running back? Do you sign a running back to a big extension? Or maybe this is the new wave. All right, we're going to sign running backs to short-term but big money contracts. So I'm wondering if Gibbs is going to be something similar, like a 3-year type of deal, but with a boatload of cash and guaranteed cash. Like Bijan Robinson, his record deal is a 3-year deal worth up to $70 $65 million. 51 of it guaranteed. $22.25 million per year. I think running back is one of the most important positions in football. It's one of the most taxing positions in all of football. But it's also one of those positions that I feel some teams, at least for a long stretch, did not want to invest money in. It's one of those that you wear and tear a little bit on their rookie deals, and then you kind of say goodbye. Use and abuse. But maybe that's kind of, and then remember too, there was the era of you need 2 running backs. Now you kind of have the bell cows back again. But yeah, fantasy football wise, hey, those are always number 1 picks, right? Okay. I know I went a little long in those pressers, so I do got to take another break before the top of the hour here. But if you're just joining in, we'll get back to some more Brewers talk coming up in the next hour. We got Hunter Baumgart joining us just past 9 o'clock, Brewers reporter. Kyle Harrison was magnificent last night. Brewers will try to go for the series win this afternoon with Dustin May on the mound, making his Brewers debut. So we'll hit that up. We'll wrap up the rest of this hour with some more football talk here. Coming up in about 40 minutes. Jake Boakes, DNR Warden, will be joining us to answer your hunting and fishing and outdoor questions too. So text them on over, 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back to wrap up the second hour and head into halftime after these few words. Looking for your next great night out? Well, make it the VFW Post 305 in Eau Claire with live music, exciting events happening throughout the month, great food, cold beverages, and a fun, welcoming atmosphere. There's always a reason to stop on by. Whether you're meeting up with friends or looking for something fun to do, the VFW Post 305 has something for everyone. Make sure you're following the VFW Post 305 on Facebook to stay up to date on all their latest events and entertainments, because you never know what's going on at the VFW Post 305, located 1300 Star Avenue in Eau Claire. All right, so I'll do my 3 up, 3 down just past 8 o'clock. Since we were talking a little bit about... okay. We've got, so first of all, Packers have a practice closed to the public but open to the media. Goody, LaFleur at the podium beforehand and locker room after. Andrew Brandt had said, what's interesting in this NFL running back discussion, even with top-of-the-market extensions for Robinson, Taylor, and we assume Gibbs, the best running back contract by far in terms of signing bonus and guarantee is for rookie Jeremiah Love. Interesting way to, interesting. Yeah. All right. But, yeah, I'll do my 3 up, 3 down coming up just past the top of the hour. Before we get to Jake Boakes at the bottom of the hour, so it's like our second to last call for any hunting, fishing, boating, outdoor-related questions for Jake. So you can text those on over to 715-830-1912. Brewers again, 1:10 first pitch. 1:10 first pitch. Afternoon game. Coverage will begin on your radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM, 35 minutes prior. Dusty May, making his Brewers debut. So we'll get to see him in action today and hopefully make some really good first impression. But I want to throw this out there for your consideration, Brewers fans, okay? I mean, in terms of K rate, Brewers have 3 of the top 4 in the National League. In the National League, do the Brewers have, if we were to power rank the top 3 starters in rotation, based off the numbers right now, are the Brewers number 1? I'm looking at Miz and Harrison, 'and 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 based off the stats, based off the numbers, based off the performance, do the Brewers have the top trio? Or are you like, nope, it's the Dodgers with Skubal, Yamamoto, you throw in Ohtani, Snell, Tyler Glasnow, but they're a little bit banged up. So, like, right now, currently, at this point in time, would you give it to the Brewers? Or if not, who else? Maybe you still do with the Dodgers. Heck, maybe not just the National League, but the entire majors. I mean, if you look at the Braves or even, the Phillies, okay, Sanchez is there. You got Zach Wheeler and Jesus Luzardo, Aaron Nola. Braves is Chris Sale, but then Perez and Elder. That far-fetched to say that the Brewers right now have the best trio if it's Miz, Logan, and Harrison. Yay or nay? All right, shot clock's going to cut me off, so we are going to be at halftime, and we'll kick off the next hour with a little 3 up, 3 down, and we'll get back to some more baseball talk, plus Jake Boaks at the bottom of the hour. Quick break. We'll be right back after these.